50 years probably. And it's 3,000 years we're playing with, so people thought that was something, and it really was incredible. We had tremendous friendships, and we've developed some friendships even over the last few days, and it's going very well. 8 awards, if you think. 7 Russia. I thought the Russia-Ukraine would be easy. It would have never happened. It should have never happened. But a lot of people are being killed in that war. It's the bloodiest war since the Second World War, of which we have a lot of them. We have a lot of legends in the room tonight. And that's why we're here, to celebrate you, because you've given tremendous amounts of money to see a ballroom built for the first time at the White House. The White House, for 150 years plus, they wanted to have a ballroom, and it never happened because they never had a real estate person. For me, I like it. For me, it's like, I love it in between China, Russia, and everything else that we deal with. It's going to be a great ballroom. It's going to be a great ballroom. Phenomenal ballroom. This is going to be one of the best anywhere in the world. There won't be anything like it, actually. And it's 4 sides of glass, or glass, beautiful glass, but totally appropriate in color and in window shape and everything else with the White House, moldings.
Okay, so footage just leaked from inside Trump's White House. And when I say leaked, I mean someone literally recorded what was happening at this exclusive billionaire dinner and put it online for everyone to see. And honestly, the optics are absolutely devastating. So here's what went down. Wednesday night, October 15th, Trump hosted this lavish gala at the White House, called it the Legacy Dinner. And the guest list? Oh man, the guest list reads like a who's who of billionaires and tech giants. We're talking Amazon, Apple, Meta, Lockheed Martin, Google, Coinbase, Palantir, all the biggest names in tech and defense. And they're all sitting there in the East Room dining on beef Wellington and butterscotch ice cream being served on gold dot trim plates at the White House while the federal government is partially shut down. Can you believe this? Like seriously. Can you wrap your head around how tone.deaf this is? But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust headlines anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video. Because while these billionaires are clinking champagne glasses and eating expensive food off gold plates, federal workers across America aren't getting paychecks. They're struggling to pay rent. They're worried about feeding their families. They're dealing with the government shutdown that Trump caused. And Trump's throwing a party for the ultra-rich. The disconnect is absolutely insane. But wait, it gets worse. Because this wasn't just some random dinner party. This was a fundraising celebration. Trump was showing off renderings of his new ballroom project. Yeah, you heard that right. Trump's building a massive new ballroom at the White House. And these donors, they're the ones who funded it. $200 million. That's how much this ballroom project costs. And Trump's got private donors paying for it. Billionaires and corporations writing checks to build Trump's vanity project at the White House. And Wednesday night was basically Trump's way of saying thank you. Hey, thanks for the $200 million. Let me show you some fancy drawings of what we're building. Oh, and here's some beef Wellington on gold plates. I mean, come on. This is the most blatant pay-to-dot play scheme imaginable. These aren't just donors. These are people who want access to the president. These are CEOs whose companies have business before the federal government. These are tech giants who need favorable regulations. And Trump's whining and dining them at the White House while showing off his construction project that they paid for. The DNC immediately condemned the event, called it a cash dot for dot access fundraiser. And honestly, they're not wrong. Because that's exactly what this was. You want access to Trump? You want FaceTime with the president? Write a big check for his ballroom project. Get invited to an exclusive dinner at the White House. Rub shoulders with other billionaires while federal workers go without pay. That's the system Trump's created. And now we've got footage proving it. Because someone at that dinner recorded video or took photos or both, and they leaked it online. And now everyone can see the lavish luxury these people were enjoying while the rest of America deals with a government shutdown. The images that leaked are absolutely damning. You've got billionaires in tuxedos and fancy dresses. You've got gold dot trim place settings. You've got elaborate floral arrangements. You've got Trump standing there grinning while showing off architectural renderings of his ballroom. And the internet is absolutely exploding over this. Because the optics are so bad, the timing is so terrible, The contrast is so stark. Federal workers struggling versus billionaires partying, government shutdown versus gold dot trim dinners, regular Americans suffering versus tech CEOs celebrating. It's Marie Antoinette levels of disconnect from reality. Let them eat cake vibes, but for the 21st century. And Trump doesn't seem to care at all. He's apparently thrilled about his ballroom project. According to reports, he was bragging at the dinner that is completely financed by patriots who believe in beauty, history, and greatness. Patriots. He called these billionaire donors patriots because nothing says patriotism like writing a check so the president can build a 90,000 square foot ballroom, right? This ballroom, by the way, is supposed to seat 650 people. It's going to be the largest private funded addition to the White House since Truman's Reconstruction. Trump's literally building a monument to himself using billionaire money, and he's celebrating it with an exclusive dinner party while the government is shut down. The tone.deafness is staggering. The privilege is overwhelming. The corruption is blatant. But here's what makes this story even more important. This isn't just about one dinner. This is about what Trump's presidency has become. Because Trump ran as a populist, he claimed to represent working Americans. He said he drained the swamp. He positioned himself as the guy fighting for regular people against the elites. But look at what's actually happening. He's hosting exclusive dinners for billionaires. He's building vanity projects funded by the ultra-rich. He's shutting down the government while partying with tech CEOs. That's not populism. That's oligarchy. That's the definition of government buying for the wealthy. And the leaked footage proves it. Because now everyone can see behind the curtain. Everyone can see what Trump's presidency really looks like when the cameras aren't rolling. Gold dot trim plates, beef Wellington, billionaires clinking glasses, and renderings of a $200 million vanity project. That's the real Trump presidency. Not the populist rhetoric, not the working class posturing, but this. Lavish dinners with the ultra wealthy while regular Americans struggle. Stick around, because we're about to break down exactly who was at this dinner, what they want from Trump, and why this might be the scandal that finally breaks through to voters who still think Trump represents them. Alright, so let's dig into the details here, because the more you learn about this dinner, the worse it gets. The guest list, the menu, the timing, the purpose, all of it is just layers upon layers of problematic optics. So first, let's talk about who was actually at this legacy dinner, because the names matter. These aren't random rich people. These are specific billionaires and CEOs whose companies have massive stakes in government policy. According to the Wall Street Journal and CNN, the guest list included representatives from Amazon, Apple, Meta, Lockheed Martin, Google, Coinbase, and Palantir. Think about that for a second. Amazon, which has massive government contracts and is constantly dealing with antitrust scrutiny. Apple, which has ongoing battles with the Justice Department over encryption and privacy. Meta, which faces constant pressure over content moderation and data privacy. Lockheed Martin, one of the biggest defense contractors in the world. Google, which has antitrust cases pending. Coinbase, which needs favorable crypto regulations. Palantir, which works extensively with intelligence agencies. Every single one of these companies has business before the federal government. Every single one of them needs things from Trump's administration. Favorable regulations, government contracts, less oversight, tax breaks, whatever. And they're all sitting in the White House, dining with the president after writing checks for his ballroom project. If that's not pay, play, I don't know what is. And the dinner itself, oh man, the menu and presentation were over the top. Beef Wellington, which is already an expensive fancy dish. Anjou pears, which are like gourmet pears. Butterscotch ice cream for dessert. And everything served on gold trim plates. Because of course, because nothing says I'm a man of the people like serving dinner on gold plates. The floral arrangements were elaborate. The table settings were immaculate. The East Room was decorated like you'd expect for a state dinner with a foreign leader, except this wasn't a state dinner. This was a thank you party for billionaire donors. And the whole time Trump was showing off architectural renderings of his ballroom, this 90,000 square foot monstrosity that's going to fundamentally change the White House grounds. According to reports, Trump was absolutely giddy about it, bragging about how it's the biggest private funded addition since Truman, talking about beauty and greatness and American prosperity. But here's what he wasn't talking about. The government shutdown, the federal workers going without pay, the services being disrupted, the families struggling because their paychecks got delayed. None of that came up at dinner, because why would it? These billionaires aren't affected by government shutdowns. Their lives continue exactly as before, regardless of what's happening in Washington. They're insulated from the consequences of Trump's decisions. They're protected by their wealth. They don't have to worry about missing a paycheck or not making rent. And that's exactly the problem. Trump surrounded himself with people who don't understand or care about the struggles regular Americans face. Now let's talk about the timing, because oh boy, the timing couldn't be worse. This dinner happened on October 15th, right in the middle of a government shutdown that Trump caused by refusing to sign a spending bill unless Congress gave him everything he wanted. Federal workers have been furloughed, government services have been disrupted, national parks are closing, agencies are operating with skeleton crews, and in the middle of all this chaos, Trump throws a lavish party for billionaires. The DNC put out a statement absolutely hammering Trump for this. They called it a cash dot-for-dot access dinner, while working families brace for skyrocketing healthcare costs and missed paychecks, and honestly, that's pretty accurate because that's exactly what's happening. While regular Americans suffer from Trump's shutdown, billionaires are enjoying fancy dinners at the White House. The contrast is stark. The optics are terrible. The message it sends is devastating. It says Trump cares more about schmoozing with donors than governing. It says he prioritizes his vanity projects over federal workers. It says he's more interested in building a ballroom than keeping the government open. And the leaked footage proves all of this, because now we're not just hearing about the dinner secondhand. We can actually see it. We can see the gold plates and the fancy food and the billionaires in their tuxedos. It's all right there on video. Undeniable proof of Trump's priorities. Now, let's talk about this ballroom project itself, because it's even more ridiculous than you might think. $200 million for a ballroom at the White House, paid for entirely by private donors, and it's not even a necessary addition. The White House already has spaces for events, the East Room, the State Dining Room, multiple other rooms suitable for entertaining, but Trump wanted something bigger, something grander, something with his name attached to it. So he's building the Donald J. Trump Ballroom, 90,000 square feet, capacity for 650 guests, the biggest addition to the White House in decades. And he's funding it through private donations, which means billionaires and corporations are literally buying their way into leaving a permanent mark on the White House. Think about what that means for future administrations. Every president from now on will have to use Trump's ballroom for major events. His name will be permanently associated with the White House. That's what this is really about. Trump's legacy, Trump's ego, Trump wanting to be remembered as the president who built something grand. And billionaires are paying for the privilege of helping him do it, in exchange for access, in exchange for influence, in exchange for favorable treatment from the administration. It's corruption in plain sight, and the leaked footage from the dinner is making that corruption impossible to ignore. But here's where it gets really interesting, because this isn't the first time Trump's done something like this. Remember Mar-a-Lago, Trump's private club where members paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for access, where he conducted government business over dinner in the dining room, where foreign leaders and CEOs mingled with the president? That was controversial. People criticized it, but Trump kept doing it anyway. And now he's brought that same model to the White House itself. Exclusive dinners for wealthy donors, access in exchange for money, blurring the lines between official government business and personal fundraising. Except now it's even worse, because at least Mar-a-Lago was Trump's private property. The White House is supposed to belong to all Americans. It's not Trump's personal party venue, but that's how he's treating it, like it's an extension of his private business empire, a place to wine and dine wealthy benefactors. And the American people are watching. The leaked footage is going viral on social media. Everyone's seeing the gold plates and the billionaires and the fancy food, and they're comparing it to their own lives, their own struggles with the shutdown, their own worries about making ends meet. And the gap between Trump's world and their world has never been more visible. Now Trump's defenders will argue that this is fine, that private donations for White House projects are normal, that hosting dinners for donors isn't unusual, and technically, they're not completely wrong. Private donations to the White House have happened before. Presidents have hosted donor events before, but the scale is different. The blatantness is different. The timing is different. $200 million is an unprecedented amount for a White House addition. Hosting a lavish celebration during a government shutdown is tone.deaf. The leaked footage showing the excess is damaging in ways previous donor events weren't. This isn't normal. This is Trump taking something that might have been acceptable in small doses and cranking it up to 11. Making it so obvious and excessive that it can't be defended, and his supporters are struggling to spin this because the footage is right there. You can't claim it's fake news when there's literal video of billionaires eating off gold plates at the White House. You can't say Trump's a man of the people when he's throwing parties for tech CEOs while federal workers go unpaid. The cognitive dissonance is too great, the evidence is too clear, and that's why this story matters. Not because it's shocking that Trump would do something like this. We already know he favors the wealthy. We already know he loves luxury and excess, but because now everyone can see it, the mask is off. The leaked footage removes any doubt about what Trump's presidency is really about. It's about serving the interests of billionaires and corporations. It's about building monuments to Trump's ego. It's about access and influence in exchange for money. And regular Americans, they're just props in Trump's show, background characters who don't matter unless they're useful. The leaked Gala footage proves that, and it's a message Trump probably didn't want the public to see. Okay, so let's break this down into what actually matters, because there's so much going on here. But really, it comes down to three massive points. Point one, this leaked footage destroys Trump's populist brand, possibly permanently. Look, Trump's entire political identity is built on being different from typical politicians. He's supposedly the guy who understands working Americans, the outsider who's fighting the swamp, the businessman who gets things done. But this dinner, this completely contradicts all of that. You can't be a populist while hosting exclusive dinners for billionaires. You can't claim to represent working people while serving food on gold plates. You can't drain the swamp while taking $200 million from tech giants and defense contractors. It doesn't work. The narrative collapses. And what makes this particularly damaging is the leaked footage. Because before, Trump's supporters could dismiss criticism as biased media attacks. They could claim reporters were making things up or exaggerating. But now, there's actual video, actual photos from inside the event showing exactly what happened. That's impossible to spin. You can't claim it's fake when people can see it with their own eyes. And for voters who supported Trump because they believed he was different, because they thought he actually cared about them, this has to be jarring, because the images don't lie. Those are billionaires celebrating. That's Trump showing off his vanity project. That's excess and luxury, while regular people struggle. If you're a Trump supporter who works paycheck to paycheck, who's struggling with inflation, who's worried about making ends meet, what do you think when you see this footage? Do you still believe Trump represents you? Or do you start to realize he's always been about serving the wealthy? That's the crisis Trump's facing. Not just bad press, but actual erosion of his core political brand. Point two, this is textbook corruption, and the leaked evidence makes it impossible to deny. Let's be clear about what happened here. Companies and billionaires donated $200 million for Trump's ballroom project. Then Trump invited them to an exclusive White House dinner where they got FaceTime with the president. That's pay ... play. That's buying access. That's corruption. Now, Trump's team will argue it's not technically illegal, that private donations for White House projects are allowed, that hosting dinners isn't against any rules, and maybe they're right about the technicalities. Maybe Trump found loopholes that make this legal, but legal doesn't mean ethical. Legal doesn't mean it's okay. Legal doesn't mean it's not corrupt, because we all know what's happening here. These donors aren't writing checks because they care about ballroom architecture. They're buying influence, they're securing access. They're making sure Trump takes their calls when they need something. And every one of those companies, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Lockheed Martin, Google, Coinbase, Palantir, they all have business before the federal government. They all need things from Trump's administration. Favorable regulations, government contracts, less scrutiny from antitrust enforcers. And now they've got Trump's ear, they've got relationships, they've got access. That's how corruption works in modern America. Not briefcases full of cash, but donations and access and influence. And the leaked footage proves it's happening. Point three, the timing during the shutdown makes this a political disaster heading into 2026 because Democrats just got handed the perfect campaign issue. Trump threw a lavish party for billionaires while federal workers went without pay. That's devastating. That's simple. That's backed up by video evidence. You can't spin your way out of that. You can't claim it's fake news. The footage exists. Everyone's seen it. And for Democrats running in 2026, this is gold. They can show the leaked footage in campaign ads. They can contrast Trump's billionaire dinner with stories of struggling federal workers. They can ask voters, whose side is Trump really on? And Republicans won't have a good answer because the evidence is overwhelming. This isn't speculation. This isn't partisan attacks. This is documented reality. Trump hosted a lavish dinner for wealthy donors during a government shutdown he caused. That's indefensible. And it plays into every criticism Democrats have been making about Trump, that he serves the wealthy, that he's corrupt, that he doesn't care about working people. Now they've got proof, video proof, that they can show voters over and over again, and the timing couldn't be worse for Republicans. We're heading into an election year. Trump's approval ratings are already shaky. His party is dealing with multiple crises, and now they have to defend this blatant display of excess and privilege. Good luck with that. Now let's talk about what happens next, because this story isn't going away. The leaked footage is everywhere. Social media is flooded with it. News outlets are covering it constantly. Democratic politicians are hammering Trump over it. And more details keep emerging. More photos, more accounts from people who were there, more information about the donors and what they want. Each new detail makes it worse. Each new revelation confirms what everyone already suspected about Trump's priorities. And Trump's team, they're scrambling, trying to downplay it, trying to change the subject, trying to spin it as normal presidential activity, but it's not working. The footage is too damaging, the contrast is too stark, the corruption is too obvious, so expect this to dominate news cycles for weeks, Expect congressional Democrats to investigate. Expect campaign ads in 2026 featuring the leaked footage. This is the kind of scandal that has legs, the kind that shapes narratives, the kind that actually moves public opinion. And it couldn't have happened at a worse time for Trump, right as he's trying to position himself for the midterms, right as Republicans need to show they can govern effectively. Instead, they're defending billionaire dinners and gold-trimmed plates while Americans struggle. That's not a winning message. That's not how you convince voters you deserve to stay in power. Also worth noting, this will embolden leakers because whoever leaked this footage, they saw the impact, they saw how much attention it got, they saw that it actually mattered. So expect more leaks from future Trump events, more insider footage, more documentation of what really happens behind closed doors. Trump's made enemies among his own staff, people who are disgusted by what they're seeing, people who think the public deserves to know the truth, and those people are now emboldened to leak more because this leak worked. Finally, let's talk about what this means for Trump's legacy, because that ballroom he's so proud of is going to be remembered very differently than he intended. Trump wanted it to be a monument to his presidency, a symbol of American greatness and prosperity. Instead, it's going to be remembered as a monument to corruption, a symbol of how Trump used the presidency to serve billionaires and build vanity projects. Future historians will write about the Trump ballroom as an example of how far American democracy had fallen, how blatant the corruption had become, how disconnected the president was from regular Americans. That's Trump's legacy, not greatness, corruption, and the leaked Gala footage. That's going to be the image everyone remembers. Billionaires celebrating while America struggled, gold plates while federal workers went unpaid. That's what Trump's presidency looks like, and now everyone knows it. Next time, we're diving into exactly which companies donated to the Ballroom Project and what they got in return from Trump's administration, because the connections are even more corrupt than you think.